We're going to get right into it. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I broke this down for you guys is storytelling is where we're going to start. Last week we had talked about how you build your pitch and how you structure it from having a problem that you believe in, something that you experience every day. And then we also talked about how you can incorporate your story, but this time we're going to talk about how storytelling actually impacts your pitches and gets people to actually connect with you. Okay, so before we define storytelling as it relates to pitching, who can tell me what they think storytelling is? I'll give you a mic if you will tell me. I need two people. Yeah.
Trying to convince someone to do something or act in a certain way.
Really? That sounds like a lie. I don't know. You're trying to convince people? Okay.
That's the definition of storytelling as it is.
Okay. I can go with that. Who else? Storytelling. What do you think storytelling means?
I think it's the way you present an idea or something, how you tell a story, if it's redundant.
That works. Okay. Anyone else have their perspective of what they think storytelling is? Huh? Yeah.
I think a story is usually very personal, and by telling a story, you try to share your ideas and your perspectives, and to help it resonate with people.
Absolutely. So I think all of you guys are right. I don't think there's really a wrong answer. We've all been introduced to storytelling in different ways, but kind of all of you collectively basically were saying it's a way to engage other people by sharing with them either your experiences, your ideas, or your thoughts, right? So storytelling actually does have a definition, and we're going to define it real quickly as we use it. So it is a skill, right, of conveying not only your ideas, but to convey, specific events or experiences or ideas through a captivating way, okay? So it's not just, that I can just talk to you and just kind of just look through you and never ever make eye contact and hope that you really are grasping the essence of what I'm trying to say, right? So if I want to find a way to make it more engaging and control the narrative, right, that doesn't lose you along the way, right? If I'm just talking, I'm not looking at your eyes, and I'm just talking for 5 minutes, and I think it's an amazing story, you're going to look at me like, man, I wish I could have just left the conversation, right? So what we want to be able to look at is how can we take storytelling, right, and be able to use it to create an engaging and an effective presentation and pitch of our ideas. So who's here in a competition right now? I know a couple of you. You're doing the sustainability competition? Sustainability? Everyone? Okay. Has anyone ever done a sustainability competition before? Has anyone ever explained to a friend what they believe about sustainability? Yeah? Did you have to tell a story, or did you share an experience? Anyone want to share? Yeah? You shared an experience, or?
I shared like statistics and facts and stuff like that.
Okay. Statistics and facts, things that you knew to be true. You kind of led with that. Could you have led with an experience, or do you not have an experience?
I guess I could have.
You could have led with an experience, right? But the friend that you told, you think that friend is more of a person that likes the story, or they like some factual things right up front? Don't know? You just was willing to share, right? So once again, we don't know who our audience is half the time, right? If I meet you outside, we never met before, I don't know who you are, but I want to say something and I want to share it. If I share it in a compelling way, an intriguing way, you might just listen, right? You might just listen intently to say, tell me more, right? And that's what we want people to do when we're talking about our pitches. So being able to get us to tell you more is the next step of the story, right? So let's go to the next slide real quick. So a couple of things that I just kind of broke down for you guys is the way to kind of structure, right? Structure your pitch. You can do it in many different ways, but I feel like these are the ways that I've learned over time that are pretty much solid, and I've seen them being used by other people as well. And so these are not always the only way, but this is definitely one way to think about it. All right, so the first one is context. Why are we telling the story, right? Is it just because I want to talk all day? Or is it because I'm really trying to get you to see something that we were probably maybe disagreeing upon, or we have two different perspectives or opinions about, or maybe we share the same thoughts on a problem that we want to solve, right? But if you experience a problem one way, you experience another way, and I experience a different way, I also have to provide context, right? So maybe I can say something more on the, can you hear me? Yeah? So I can be more clear and concise in the way that I explain things. You guys have ever had a conversation with someone and you found yourself continuing to speak, even knowing you probably should have stopped a minute ago? Anyone ever had that experience? We do it all the time, but that's kind of the way we all come off in the beginning. We have so much we want to say and so much we want to get out that we kind of go over the context, right, of what we're trying to get out. So being able to find a way to condense it down as much as you can is going to be the best way you can start that story, okay? Problem, right? So when we have a problem that we've experienced, man, some of us may not share, right? So there's lots of experiences that we may have that we don't want to share. But a problem that we see as a problem that could be that other people may have, that we have passion about, we may be very passionate about sharing it. Sometimes we may not know the core problem, but we have a surface problem that we see all the time, right? And so when we start talking about the surface, but we may not have underlying knowledge, so we're only talking surface level information. But what if the foundational information is more important for me? What if I need that to be clear and understanding of why this problem is such a big problem and why you're looking to solve this problem, right? So providing as much context as early as you can in a concise way is where you guys want to start, okay? Let's give another one. So in this particular step of a business model, right, we talk about business pitching and pitching for competitions and things like that. The most important thing that we're trying to get across is the value that we're trying to create, right? Unique value proposition. Anyone ever heard of that? Before competitions? Unique.
Same as the USP.
One more time? Hold on.
Same as the USP selling point?
A USP?
Yeah.
It's very similar. Yes, yes. Where'd you hear of unique value proposition? Oh, so you heard of USP, unique selling point, or unique selling proposition, right? Selling point. Mm-hmm. It's more of it is a thing in sales, right? But a unique value proposition is explain to me the true value of what you're saying you're going to do to solve that problem. How does it come across, right? Obviously, you have this idea, this vision of what you would like to do, but if you're over explaining it or under explaining the value, I might not catch on to what you're trying to get across, okay? So storytelling and being able to capture that value proposition and give it to me in a way that you can explain that, hey, this person had that problem, right? So you ever heard of, or actually you guys have it in your hands. Let's look at an example real quick. I want to show you how sometimes this could really work. Okay, so I'm gonna pull it up. So you guys have the one in your hands of an example that says the Fix-It app, right? Let's do a quick example. So the Fix-It app. All right, so the problem that I would like for you I'm gonna provide context on is the problem is difficulty in finding reliable, affordable, and timely home repair services. Okay. Concise way, what did I do? I split up the problem into 3 sub areas that I wanted you to focus on. Right? Difficulty in finding reliable, affordable, and timely home repairs. So for the pitches that you guys have going on right now, who thinks they can actually help me understand in this concise way the problem that you guys are looking to solve? You can take a shot at it, right? You don't have to try to get it 100% right. We just take a shot at it in a concise way, right? because we know it's out there. We know there is a real problem, right? Can you break it down in a concise way? Who wants to try? Okay. Hopefully we can get there. Okay. But as you guys can see, if I came to you and told you that was, I gave you context, right? I broke it up into 3 sub-areas: difficulty finding reliable, affordable, and timely. So we know that the terminology of reliable means what? I can depend on it, right? I need something that I can depend on. Timely means what? Yes. Say it again. They're going to be quick. They're going to be fast. Okay. So you guys can find yourself in situations where maybe there was something that was not reliable and you couldn't depend on it, or that you do depend on something, right? You can find yourself in that situation. Timely. We've all been in situations where some things take forever. So if I can connect you to a variable of the problem, that is starting to get the story across, okay? So the other aspect of the unique value proposition that I want to get across was being able to make it make sense, right? Sometimes we do believe that our solution is the best solution, right? Because we've either experienced it, we've gone through it, but maybe we haven't gone deep enough. So the value proposition is that leading component that's going to make it believable, okay? So if I told you that my solution was that this Fix-It app is a mobile platform that connects homeowners with a vetted local handy person for various home repairs. Inside that solution, what was I able to do to convince you? Is there anything convincing there that says this could be possible? This could possibly create value? Anything?
The word vetted.
Hmm?
The word vetted, like vetted local handy persons.
One more time?
The word of vetted, like vetted local handy persons.
Exactly. Vetted, right? So vetted connects to reliability, right? What connects to affordable? So this is an example. I missed the mark, right? But what about home repairs? What does that represent? Yes, exactly. But there's something missing. I told you their problem had 3 components to it, right? Reliable, affordable, and timely. If you're going to tell me that there's a value add and you told me that there's the problem with 3 sub-problems, you should be able to explain to me in a concise way that the solution is going to solve all 3 of those sub-problems, right? Otherwise, now I'm going to have questions. I'm probably going to not even listen to you any further. I'm going to be like, well, I have the affordable problem, right? It's too expensive for me to go find services online, and all I'm doing is Upwork, and it costs me X dollars. I wish I can get that down, right? So the value was not there in this one. So I have one more example I'm going to show you a little bit later. But the next one is traction and success. What if I told you that my Fix-It app actually has serviced 155 people within our local area of Irvine, and we're looking to be able to service your problem as well? Is that enough traction for you? Is it enough for you to say, you know what, this seems like a reliable solution, right? So being able to have some form of traction or what you're going to do, showing the potential impact, comes after your value proposition. So I've solved the problem for this person who has this problem with this potential solution, and here's the impact that we believe that this could actually have, right? So for you guys who are doing the competition right now, you basically have what? You have about a couple of days to kind of get your pitch together and then deliver it, right? You have no particular traction today, right? But you do know that you want to have traction and you want it to create X impact, right? Being able to state that and structure that in a story, right, is going to actually help us make this more believable, right? So if you want to solve, let's just call it, you want to solve homelessness here in Orange County, right? Or let's just call it California overall. You want to solve homelessness in California, but you can start with Irvine, right? And say if we want to start with Irvine, and by 2024, we want to be able to have 100 people off the streets of Irvine, right? Through our solution, right? It's small, but at least explains to me this level of impact that you're going to have, okay? And if you want to expand that, if you have a bigger goal, a much more global goal, you can do the exact same thing, okay? The other thing that I was going to say was it showcases, maybe you can do testimonials. Maybe you've talked to enough customers and they said that your solution that you're going to provide could truly create an impact here. So if you had 15, 20 people who said, yes, you know what, if you can get this off the ground, this would be amazing. Testimonials, right? Or something you can throw here in this particular section, okay? What about milestones? What if you've actually accomplished some milestones? So right now, I know the pitches are due Sunday, but in the next couple of weeks, you guys are going to be building your presentation deck, right? And over the next couple of weeks, you're going to test your business model out and see if you get some things done. And maybe you move from doing only 10 interviews to doing 125 interviews, and that's enough traction. You can say, hey, you know, this is where we are. And even if you don't have enough traction that you believe in, this is enough that maybe you had 0 at one point, okay? By sharing this just might be enough to show us and validate that not only are you willing to do the work, but you have started doing the work, and we want to see you do it more, right? There's enough traction through the process. What about credibility, right? You can come in. It builds trust. Being able to show traction, it builds trust. Or success stories, it shows some kind of trust in the process, okay? What about the last one that I wanted to share real quick? Call to action. Right now, you guys are building your pitch for the sustainability competition just to share a little bit with the judges of what you're trying to do. And it's kind of like, okay, well, here's the story, here's the story, here's the story, but then what? What are we telling me this story for? What do you want me to know? What should I do? What should I do with this story, right? The call to action. You guys have heard the whole like Shark Tank pitches and stuff like that. We're looking for $500,000 for 10% of our company, right? Not everybody has that as their ask, but that's a call to action. I'm talking to the investors. I explain to them my business. I show them how I make money. I show them how I create impact. And what I'm looking from you is I'm looking for money in exchange for this percentage of my company, right? That's what we've seen over and over and over. But in this case, maybe you guys with your videos that you can actually think about the ask, right? What else would you need after this competition's over, right? And you're able to win this competition, hopefully, right? And then after it's over, what would be most necessary to keep you going? Maybe that's something you leave off with. If you don't have a particular ask, maybe you leave off with a simple understanding of the impact that you're going to have. Close the story in a good way, right? Every story that starts and has a middle and has an end, but you definitely want to find a way to close it so that so it's the last thing you say to me, it's the last thing I see. I may have your presentation deck and I may have your video, but I don't hear you anymore. I can't hear you speak anymore, right? So what's the last thing that I can know that you said to me? Well, you told me, hey, well, I need a mentor in the area of water sustainability, right? And we're looking for a subject matter expert to interview or to get advice from, right? Maybe that's something that you really need. Put that into your pitch, okay? So another thing that we do for call to actions, it just makes it clear and it paints a little bit of the future. So if you guys are looking at trying to express that your idea is being in motion now, but you want to create X impact by X time, maybe you can express a little bit more about how someone can help you do that, okay? So if I'm actually looking to solve homelessness problems here in California and I'm going to start in Irvine, maybe someone out there that's listening can help me get access to the government or some politicians or some organizations. Because if you don't have that connections right now, you could ask for that. And that's something that we can lead, that it's like a good lead behind, a good call to action, okay? So who has questions just on this simple structure of context first, making sure it's concise, it actually explains the problem, the foundational problem that you're trying to solve, not just the surface problem, the foundational problem that you're trying to solve, right? And then your unique value proposition, what are the benefits, right? What's going to come of you solving this problem, right? And then in your particular case, you may not have enough traction, but you have a vision, you have a perspective that you want to share, right? What is that vision? How much impact could you possibly have, okay? And then the call to action. So any questions on these four main components, these four main variables? Okay. So there's a gentleman that I know from Dream Adventures. They make video. They're actually a venture fund. They bring in startups at the earliest stages of their business, and they do a lot of customer discovery with the founders, and they do a lot of pitch development. And so they created a video on pitch storytelling, okay, and why it's actually important. So we're going to go over this video real quickly, and then we're going to go over a couple components before we do a breakout exercise. Let's see if this volume will work. Let me make sure.
We see so many startups struggle.
Oh, wow. It's my mic, isn't it? Let me step away. No, you're good. You're good. Yes. Take it. Yeah. Is it good? Okay. Yeah, you can still, the whole goal right now is not to try to be a perfectionist around it. It's really just to try something brand new. Remember, you know you have your ideas, but what if you, for the first time meeting someone that's amazing, an investor, and you just got to go, right? So what I want to do is give you guys an example, and then we're going to go over it. So you can improvise it, you can do whatever you like, and we're just going to critique it. Or I'll give you guys one more up one. If you want to think about your own idea that you're working on now and prepare it in the structure of the problem, customer, solution, right? Your personal experience, and then close it out with an ask, we can critique that too. Which one are you going to do? Okay. We are looking at this pitch building blocks is because, believe it or not, it is really that simple. If you structure it in these blocks, right, and then master the block, just master the block and find out what you need for transition, you can start to use hand gestures, whatever you need, or you can pace yourself over here, over there to kind of move yourself to that next stage of the next block of the story. That's what the pitch blocking is all about, okay? So while you have some time, we have about 5 minutes, so just keep looking at it and seeing which one you want to do, and then let me see who can jump up here and do it.
Wait, are you like with one team?
Okay. So, who wants to give it a shot? We got to give it a shot, guys. Okay. Gung ho. Okay. So, Iman. Okay, Iman. So, do you want the mic in your hand?
Is that gonna catch my audio if I don't?
No.
Hello. Okay.
Okay, so while you're doing this, what our job is to do, yeah, grab here you go. Okay. What our job is to do is to just identify certain characteristics, right? What do we see that becomes, let's call it something very recognizable, right? I don't want to say anything yet. nonverbals, maybe even verbally he does something, or maybe his mannerisms. Let's figure it out and let's go through that, okay? The next stage of this is all about what we're talking about. So go right ahead, Ivan.
Let's go. So how many of you are young professionals looking to enter into your industry of choice? All of you. And how many of you have looked for or wish to have a mentor that can help you guide your way throughout your professional journey? Exactly. Now, as a young professional myself, and yeah, as someone who actually has gone through the process of looking for a mentor myself, I know how difficult it is to be able to find and to be able to connect with a qualified and a friendly mentor. After realizing how big of a problem this is, me and some friends have decided to launch our app, Mentor Me. Mentor Me is essentially an app that will solve all your problems connected to mentoring. What we have done is we have developed a special algorithm that will determine what your likes, interests, and what your desires professionally are, and will match you to a mentor that is best suited for you. This will help make the whole process more affordable for everybody, and this will also help you and the mentor be able to connect much better. Therefore, with Mentor Me, we hope to be able to guide all young professionals to a journey of professional success, and to be able to connect mentors with mentees that they can actually assist with. That sounded way better in my head.
So by the way, you looked at this for less than 5 minutes, right? And he was able to do that off the fly.
2 minutes, to be fair.
2 minutes, 2 minutes to do it off the fly, right? So remember, we're not critiquing from a high-level realistic standpoint. But what we want to be able to do is see what we notice, because when you're on stage, right, when someone else is watching you, they're going to notice some of these similar things that we may say. So even though this is the first time, he could have did this 100 times, he probably still have similar mannerisms. So what are some mannerisms that you might have noticed?
When he was looking for what to say next, he looked at the floor.
Look at the floor?
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So looking at the floor. So, we're up here and we have our audience, right? Probably the most noticeable thing is that you're not looking at them, right? So that could be something that if I'm a serious investor and I'm not caring about your emotions or anything like that, or your challenge of being in stage in front of me, then that might be something that I point out, right? Or that sticks to me versus more of listening to you, right? So, okay, that's one thing. What else? What are some other mannerisms? Either be nonverbals, verbals, or just the overall characteristics? Mm-hmm. Waving the hand. Is that a characteristic that you have all the time, or just think for now?
That is a characteristic I have when I'm speaking to a group of people.
Okay, so.
And if I didn't have the mic, I would be doing this.
Right.
I can't exactly do this.
So the mic was good to not have you do this?
Yeah.
Okay, so, which is, and even if it is something that you know that you're doing, right? And we all have our own thing, so we don't know what it may be, but right now we saw that one area as you move your hands, right? So what if you learned a little bit more about how to use that at your advantage, right? And be able to point, use certain things that are going along with, like thumbs up that are going along with your presentation or your story, right? Or, hands here in a power stance, right? Knowing that you use both of your hands, so never use a mic, because maybe having both your hands could give you a little bit more stance and more power, right? So you can at least have your hands up, because if that's the only challenge, having your hands up and doing that consistently and actually being more subtle movements, none of that, more subtle movements could be okay. So you're just looking at how you take your own mannerisms and learn how to strengthen them within your presentation, okay? So that's one thing. So one more. We need one more thing that you may have noticed.
The pacing,
Mm-hmm.
being
So understanding our environment, right? Sometimes we might just be in this big room, right? Where we are the center of attention. The only thing around us is this in a elongated stage, right? But sometimes maximizing the stage is just as important as getting your point across, because it's energy, right? Energy follows energy, right? So, but if you're doing it at a rapid pace and it's kind of like uneven, then therefore I will recognize that, anyone will recognize that. But if you're at a subtle pace and you're talking and you're pausing and you're moving from another step and you're still looking at me and we're still gathering attention, and the pacing will not be such of a bothering thing, right? So much of a bother, right? But if it's rapid, if it's too quickly, that's definitely something that we should work on, right? Okay, good job, Iman. All right, so we need one more person, one more brave soul to test. All right, look, the man shows up at the last hour. Okay, so what we're doing, you don't have to pitch this. I would give them two pitches, like hypothetical pitches, and it was designed in two sections. One section which is breaking it in boxes: problem, customer, solution, personal experience, and then the actual ask, right, that you're asking. You don't have to use this if you have an idea in your head that you would like to pitch, but what we want to do is see what kind of characteristics that we can notice about what you're doing while you're pitching. So they can be nonverbals, they can be verbals, they can be just, your movements, right? So the goal of that is really just to be able to identify certain things, because we know if we're identifying things for others, that others are identifying things on us, right? So more self-awareness can be grown by having awareness of others, and that's what we want to do, okay? So if you want to jump up here and throw your own thing at it, then we're all for you.
Sweet, sounds good.
Awesome. We're going to give it 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. Here's 3 minutes. 3 minutes. All right, so let me time you too. All right, so throw your best effort, and so please take notes, because he's willing to take criticism, good criticisms, okay?
I'm ready for the constructive criticism.
Yes. Okay, and I will give you a shot in 1 minute, and the time is now.
Welcome, everyone. I'm an average Joe who just came up with a going idea. What do I do next? My first thing is I do a quick Google search. I see already a list of opportunities for me to take my idea to the next level. I'm out. I'm over it. Tinder Tank is here to save the day. The Tinder Tank idea model is a work in progress, but how I like to explain it is the Tinder platform. Some of you may know the dating site Tinder, the boy and girl platform. This platform is a proprietary algorithm that will connect instead boy and girl, but investors and inventors. With this platform, I'm giving the average Joe the opportunity in solving the problem of us as average Joes not knowing where to start and where to end. And with this solution, I now have the opportunity to go onto this platform, whether it's an app, website, around the world, and connect globally with investors that fit my need and my demand in my sector, in my industry. I now have the opportunity to go onto this Tinder Tank platform, sign up in a quick 5-minute survey, figuring out what sector I am, what ideation phase I'm in, and how much funding I need, and employees in my entire breakout. With that information, I'll connect you with the investor to create the connection. For me, the biggest struggle as an entrepreneur is where to begin, where to get funding, and where are the connections. With this new idea, you can solve them all. I'm seeking $500,000 for 10% stake in my company.
Love it.
Tank.
Love it. Okay. Good job. Good job. All right, stick with us real quickly. Stick with this. Okay. So what are some things we may have noticed that stood out, evident? Yeah? Good or bad, by the way. Sorry we went kind of bad with you, but good or bad?
The hand gestures, I like them.
Okay.
I mean, that is, like, I don't know, it just makes you pay more attention, I guess.
Do you think his particular hand gestures were associated relevantly to what he's saying, or do you think they were more just what they are? Like, how did you feel?
It wasn't, I mean,
it was like, I don't think the hand gesture was like particularly relevant. I wasn't paying attention to the specific gesture, but like I don't think they were particularly relevant. It was just that, like, it was just like talking like this is
Got it.
entertaining than talking like this.
Got it.
And that is why you talk like this. So like.
Yes. Exactly.
And
That-
like
that's
you
what
said,
I was-
is it almost distracting when I go like this?
Yes.
Or is it more like inviting? Because
Yeah.
like you said, it'd be good to be like investor and invent your platform versus just like fun. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if I appreciate like anything you guys
If you
say.
don't exaggerate it, I think it makes it more interesting. Because like I don't want to like I mean I would listen anyway. So like if you just do this and just stand like a mannequin and just speak.
Exactly.
You should be doing the same,
So
verbal.
it's kind of good to like take steps around, kind of
Yeah.
open yourself up, be inviting.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for that. So so that's 3 minutes up. You had like 30 minutes or 30 seconds left, so you're good. So let me make sure that's off. Okay, it's off. So once again, even if it's just now, I mean, this is not like you had time to practice and things like that, but sometimes we don't have time to practice, right? So one thing that I noticed is that sometimes you did have relevant hand gestures, right?
Yeah.
You know, talking about point A, point B, how it equals to point C, you bring it right back, right? Some of that's very valuable. It's a learned skill to figure out how to kind of not be still, right? I mean, actually, we can all be still. So it's a learned skill to learn how not to be still, but you just got to figure out what works for you. So if you're doing hand gestures, that's inviting, that creates energy. If it creates energy, that means your tone also needs to be kind of matching that level of energy, right? So if you're speaking slow, but you're doing this and you're doing that, then that also is going to be a little awkward, right? And if you're looking down and not talking to no one and not looking, so that could also be an issue. But I think I saw more of some relevant gestures that are associated to exactly what you wanted to get across. And it could be good use for us to actually learn how to, learn new gestures. You guys have heard like of the whole posture, like learn how to have a better posture, chest up, hands crossed, or hands in your back, or whatever it may be. It means you're paying attention. This means you're paying attention. Hands crossed, like hands like this means like you are probably disturbed or something like that. We learn that these type of characteristics happen to us every day. We always do it, right? But how can we find some other ones that are more like power solutions for us, something that we can start to add more value? So I don't have any particular books on gestures, learning gestures, but it's more about knowing yours and trying to figure out how to, grow within it, okay? Who else noticed anything particular about his pitch?
You were moving like in a triangle sense with your feet, so you're only moving forward that, not like scanning the entire thing.
So it's
Okay.
like go like this, kind of like make it to the audience versus going like straight triangle.
Yeah. My tap is on me and him.
Okay, so what you're saying is that we had most of his space. We were the ones who kind of
Should I
probably
try
felt
to
his
like
influence.
just completely position myself over here then, because I'm
Yeah.
forced to see
I mean,
everything.
I could just move there to make your job easier.
Right. So I like that. I kind of noticed something similar. I noticed that you didn't probably pace the room, but you were very much in your pace here within this space, right? So maybe that's comfortable. Maybe that's something that, and you may tell us, is that something that you probably noticed about yourself, that you probably would be rather standing in one place, giving knowledge and giving information, or do you feel like you are comfortable
I feel more
pacing?
comfortable pacing around.
Okay.
And I'm curious from the audience perspective then, I should be pacing like side to side.
So did you surprise yourself that you didn't pace side to side, since you actually are more comfortable doing that?
Well, I'm definitely like, even like right now, I'm like moving around, so
Yeah.
it's better for then the audience to connect with everyone, like going like this.
Okay.
To everyone.
Perfect. Anyone else notice anything so good or bad about his pitch?
Did you guys like how I like kind of introduced the problem at first and pretend like I'm the potential customer? How almost like a story versus just being like, this is the facts, this is the investment
Yeah.
opportunity. Like almost make it like a movie trailer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then as I can do that, I do like the visual representation, like the hands, like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And also like the whole fact that you like compared it to Tinder, which is a platform most of us is like we have heard of. So like
Yeah.
if you just said we match investors with investors or inventors.
So that's exactly what I was wanting to get to. So it's great that you pointed it out. So even though there's certain things are verbals, nonverbals, but there's something that he really wanted you to know. There was a comparison. right? That comparison was of an existing app that already has traction for its own value that it introduces to its market, its particular market, right? We're going to basically use a similar structure that has already been proven to work, and we're going to connect another group of people who should be connected together as well. Like, even if you don't know the back-end technology and all the needs of the algorithm, you could probably put two and two together, but it needs to be clear that this person needs to meet this person, right? So that's a good pickup, Imam. That was exactly what I was going to say as well. Anything else before we kind of move on?
Tone, any eye contact. Was it clear about my pitch in general?
I mean, I understood what you wanted to do.
Okay. He did name out 3 things, right? 3 things. So usually with the power of 3, if you came to me for the first time and met me and you're like, hey, what's your name? My name is Jean. What do you like to do? I like to swim, walk, and run. Okay, tell me more. Tell me more about what? Swimming. And I can deliver, right? So sometimes the power of 3, even if we had a long conversation, you would probably walk away remembering at least one of those things that I said. That's very useful in any pitch because sometimes, yes, we're not connecting to everything. We don't understand your problem. We don't have the same problems, but you connected to me on something. So finding those 3 components, even when we're talking about feature sets on a mobile application, what are those 3 feature sets that we know for sure people can be, compare themselves to what they experience on a daily basis, right? So does anyone remember one of the 3 things that he is focused on? It's not a bad thing that you don't, right? If you don't resonate, you don't resonate. Right? So it's our job to find a way to make it concise and connect. So telling the story, you did start off more so with the story, but telling that story to where we, now scanning the audience, if you had more time, you jumped into it, good job.
Thank you.
But scanning the audience, knowing who your audience is, and being able to figure out, okay, I have an audience full of male and female split in half. Okay, let's see. Maybe you should have more than one story or starting point that gets into to that core problem that you're talking about, okay? So that's another thing. Sometimes in the room that you're in, maybe it's a room and there everyone's comfortable and they're a little softer. It's not all hard in business. So maybe you start off with a passion pitch, more of the passion of why you're doing what you're doing, right? And then maybe if everyone's suited up and everyone's all like very serious, okay, maybe they're number people, right? Maybe they need to hear some factual things that lead to why this problem is such a big thing. Okay, so scanning the room is one aspect of it, but great job, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you.
The app was called Tinder Tank, right?
Yeah.
I just understood the tank is from Shark Tank. I was like, what? Why
Tinder.
Tinder Tank.
Tinder.
Tinder tank.
Tinder Tank.
I was just like thinking for the past 10 minutes, like, why tank? And then she said, Shark Tank.
Yeah, just because
Okay.
it works right now. I'm trying to.
It actually works, or is it just something you made up?
No, I've been trying to develop it the past couple months now.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay.
You should put the Tinder Tank on the Tinder Tank so I can back to the message.
So thank you guys for going through that. And for those who jumped up here out of the blue, it's not easy whatsoever. Actually, you know what? I'll do a pitch real quickly. What about you over there, Shedrip? You're always ready? All right. So Shedrip's going to do one, and I'm going to do one. And you have a person. We all make mistakes, right? It's okay. But you have a person who's been through many competitions, many experiences pitching, and being able to be professional at it and do it. We can critique him and see if we pick up any mannerisms that we think may be good or probably that he can work on. So which business model do you want to pitch? I want you to pitch, well, you have something in AI I know you're working on, but I don't know if that one. But talk about what you have right now in the competition for which one? Microsoft. Yes, for Microsoft. Okay. So once again, let's just critique. If you need to write something down, but the best way to experience is to learn from what he's doing, okay? So,
Should I share?
You don't need a slide, yeah. Oh, no, we'll do a slide next time.
Okay.
Yeah. So try to condense it in 3 minutes, and then the best way you can. The way we structured it
Should we do
was
3 minutes, 1 minute,
huh?
1 minute, 3 minutes?
No, 3 minutes. So
Yep.
problem, help us explain the problem, customer solution, right? The market opportunity, your personal experience or the reason why you created this, and how we can help you, your ask.
Okay, good. So hey everyone, I'm Chidru and I'm currently a Master's of Computer Science student at UCI. Today you're going to be hearing about a problem that you might not know, so feel your ears. So how many of you know what the disease tuberculosis is? Okay, that's great. That's some people. So let me just start with this story, right? 10.6 million people fall ill due to tuberculosis every single year. And out of that, 2 million people die. So what happens, right? So the three main problems. So the first part is people don't know how to get diagnosed. Many people just say, it's a cough. It's going to go away. And they don't know. The second and the most important problem is after you get diagnosed, you need to take TB medication for 3 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months, which is a long time. But after you start taking the medication, just in like a month or two, you feel great. Then you're like, I'm not going to take the medication again. I don't need it, right? So that's the problem. So once you stop taking the medication, you get something called as multi-drug resistant TB. So if you get TB again, you're resistant to the drug that you took the first time. And now you have your chance of fatality increases by an exponential factor. So we present to you my company, which is Upnia. So we're a complete package for patients and healthcare providers to give diagnostic tools and a complete package to eradicate TB, right? So the way we do it is two things. The first problem, let me address the first problem, which was the diagnosis bit, right? So for tuberculosis, you need to do like multiple tests where you need to go to the doctor the first time. I don't know if any of you guys have done this. It's called TB skin test. Exactly. So they put something in, and then you need to wait for like 2 days and then come back in, and then they measure it. Yeah. So the drop-off rate after they put the thing in and then wait for the 48 hours is almost 50%. People don't show up again. Because A, they forget about it. B, the access to medications harder. You need to wait in long lines, et cetera, et cetera. So our solution does something very simple. You still need to go in the first time, but you don't need to go for the multiple visits. Instead, you place a coin right next to the red bump on your hand, and you just take a picture. And then we use the coin as a reference and automatically tell you your risk, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is we can listen to your cough, just 3 to 5 seconds of your cough, and analyze whether you have a high risk for TB or not. So if you're just coughing, you don't even know whether to get the test, we have that covered. So yeah, you're done with the diagnosis part. Now we get into the treatment part of the thing, right? So we have a gamified experience where we incentivize the patient to constantly keep taking the medication. We also match you up with like buddies around the world who will kind of challenge you, take your medications, just like your Apple Fitness app, something like that. So that's Upnia. And to build this out, we don't need any extra hardware, software. It's a completely a software package. So we directly integrate with governments and healthcare providers. So it becomes free for the end user. So we need a formal ask for the money.
That's it?
No, yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Good job. Good job. So I wrote down some things, but I'm going to wait and see if there is some clarity from you guys. Anything that you guys notice that could be a negative characteristic?
I was going to say positive.
Well, positives are good, but let's go some negatives real quick.
All right. Like your tone of voice was very monotone. Okay. Like I also do that, so like I'm in no position to judge, but it just when you listen, there's a possibility you can sound those out in the end. You just kind of speak in the same voice.
Good,
Okay,
good.
got that monotone voice.
So I also have an even kill voice, so I have a trouble with that. So when we're trying to get something across that actually, like this, is very passionate, we can tell the passion, right? We can see the passion, we can hear the passion, but sometimes maybe it's not coming across as passionate, as passionate as you would like it to.
Exactly.
So being able to find out where your tone level is, how do we do that? We record ourselves, right? Record ourselves and actually listen to how we speak. We probably don't do that very often, right? And yes, recording ourselves and putting it in the mirror and seeing how we look is also another challenging thing, but if we can listen to how we sound, we can start to understand where our tone level really, really is, okay? Sometimes we go higher, sometimes we go lower, sometimes we monotone, but in a pitch, because you're trying to get something across, doesn't mean you have to be overly passionate, but it needs to match what you're talking about too, right? So, anything on that?
Oh yeah, totally. Like, make sure you're like not drained and giving it at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
but like right in the beginning, yeah. So for sure, like voice makes a huge difference, especially if it's a passion project. If they, you have the first 30 seconds to like hook them in, and that can be
Yeah.
completely heard with your voice, right? So
You
it's
guys,
very important.
so we know we've seen some Shark Tanks by now, and someone has seen at least one. You see those people who are very passionate. They start to feel very emotional about what they're doing, right? And that emotion really hits to some of those investors, right? Because when they see that you have experienced the process of doing something, putting time and energy and money into something, and you want to see this massive impact happen, that might just be enough to trigger someone's desire to listen more intently to what you're saying. Remember, if we don't know each other from nowhere, the moment we start to speak doesn't mean that we're automatically listening. I hear you, but am I intently listening yet, right? Have you caught my attention? So I would say very similar thing, just finding ways to listen to your voice a little bit more, record yourself, check that out, and then see where your tone is. That's another thing. So one thing I noticed was just because you know your product and you know it very well, and you know the whole ins and outs of the process, you spoke it very fast, right? So for the audience who has never heard you, never knew who you are, being able to slow it down, pause a little bit, give a little bit more incentive on certain areas that you really want to make clear that you did break down. You said, hey, here's a statistic, and then there's 3 main problems, right? You stated that very clearly. You went through 1, 2, and I don't remember what number 3 was. So that was for me. So that's just you had us very much in the beginning, but because you know so much, it just flew through, right, throughout the rest of it at the time. So anyone else notice anything similar or have their own thoughts about Shidrup and his pitch? Yes, sir.
Follow your own slogan, find. I'm a very open person. If you were to come up to us, you'd be like, this is my problem, this is my solution. Versus like, I felt like I was like standing here like this, like, it might be like a tech guy for sure, just like sitting down like Q&A. But for me, I'm curious what other people think, is I like to be like more open and inviting. And I think it makes like it more appealing for us to watch as viewers.
Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, using your space is another very important thing. The way you use your space and walk around, connect with your audience.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yes,
Go
ma'am.
ahead.
Well, I think the first 3 things was that you have to be diagnosed. Then after that diagnosis, you have to go through that 6 to 9 month process. Then you get to feeling better, and because you feel better, you stop taking the medicines. Therefore, the problem that he wants to solve starts to kick in, which is that one. So,
Yeah.
so maybe he didn't catch you onto that one, because maybe when he said 3 main problems or 3 main focuses, what'd you say?
Yeah, 3 main problems.
3 main problems. Maybe at that point you were ready to hear the underlining problem.
Yeah, no, she got it right for the, this is the gamified adherence part. She got it right with the coin, but like the reliability. So the best way to address that is like when I'm saying that, so I should have probably said something like, yeah, hey, my model has an accuracy of like 85% or something like 95%.
There we
or
go.
Whatever that is.
There we go.
For sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's something that could be definitely said to add integrity to your solution as well, and then it captures your audience as to like, oh, okay, I know that, I know
Absolutely.
how that works. Exactly.
Perfect. But that's a good thing to point out too, because believability is probably going to go out the window once you feel like something just did not make sense, right? Okay, I get you. All right. Yes, sir. One more.
I just want to say, like, how did you? Because the first problem I understood very well, partially because I have also had a TV test, so like I know how the measurement and stuff works. But the second problem, how like the gamification of the experience itself, like, how is that gonna actually like incentivize people to take this medicine? And B, how does the gamification work? Like you could give a bit more detail as to, like how you actually did the software or whatever, like the application that you've done, the kind of the gamification process. How does that work? And do you have any proof and or experiments or stuff like that that actually prove this incentivizes people to take their medicines?
For sure, yeah.
So, all right, hold on, Iman. Yeah. Good one. 2 minutes though. 2 minutes.
Yeah. I know.
No. He got you. No, he wants it. He's gonna answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So great point. I think another same thing. You could add a fact about saying like, hey, after the gamification process, we saw that 3 out of the 5 people who stopped taking medicine would actually continue to take medication. It's a good point to add that statistic as well. And of course, another thing, we didn't get a chance to do it today, but maybe next time.
Yeah.
Visuals help. So when you've tailored your pitch around like something where you have an actual slide deck or a product demo that people are seeing, it makes it a lot more easier for them to kind of understand as well.
Like maybe show like an actual TB test bump on the skin or stuff like that.
Exactly. So when you're doing a 3-minute pitch, always make sure you take the advantage of not just what you're saying, but what you're showing as well.
Right. And so just to not go too deep into it, I was going to go a little deeper into these main areas that we've been saying these words this whole time that we've talked. Nonverbals, right? When you're not speaking, it's the way that people are gathering your energy, right? Very much something that can be done. Your eye contact is a nonverbal, right? Let's go into those real quickly. So from a nonverbal standpoint, eye contact, gestures, right? We talked about that in your body language. High energy to people who are not high energy, man, it's very tough for them to continue to listen. Low energy for those who are not low energy are also the same way. So you have to know your energy. You have to know what you give off. Are you a subtle person, right? Are you a monotone kind of speaker and you're kind of slow at everything you do? And you got to know how the room is going to perceive that. You can kind of see that when you walk into a room and you're seeing how they are presenting themselves, right? If someone is completely just, straightforward, okay, that person seems a little bit more serious. If everyone is like that, okay, so I need to give a little bit more serious, stern, direct focus. I'm looking at you, probably environment, right? Probably less energy all over the place, okay? But we have to pick those. All of us have our own, so it's really hard for me to tell you exactly what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. Look at your areas that you feel may be at your advantage and at your disadvantage, and really, really hone in on those things that are at your disadvantage, okay? Facial expressions, right? So when we want to say something more passionate, sometimes we can use our voice, use our voice to kind of get there. But what about our facial expressions, right? What if I'm like doing like this with my eyes because, or whatever, right? Just imagine like you're trying to listen to me, but my eyebrows keep going up for some reason because I'm nervous, right? Just imagine if that is something. Figure out how to kind of hone that in, calm it down. Practice, right? Get other people that you trust their opinions and their thoughts to ask, hey, what do I do with my facial expressions? Do I make any facial expressions that seem awkward or seem a little bit uninviting or whatever it may be, right? Get those people to give you some guidance and sort of feedback back and then kind of work on it, okay? Let's go to some verbals, right? We talked about it, being clear in your problem, right? Pointing out a couple main things. Like I said, the power of 3 is very, very powerful. So you guys have ever heard the triangle, right? The triangle is the strongest shape, right? Why is the triangle the strongest shape, right? It's hard to break, period. You drop it, not going to break just off the bat, right? So it has every input and every output. Energy transfers, boom, 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 right? So show us in your problem, if you can state out, my problem is X, and in X, here's 3 main areas that we're going to focus on, that we see as the areas that we're going to focus on. X1, Y2, Z3, right? Done, right? Now, with your solution, you're going to always remind yourself, I had this main problem, and I need a main solution. That main solution will solve those vicarious variable problems by doing X solution, you okay? X solution will meet X problem. Y problem, X solution, or Y solution, right? That's another way to think about it, but being able to make it clear and concise so that there's nothing else you need to say, right? Clear statement, done, clear problem, right? Avoid, one of the key things on here is avoid jargon. I think everyone knows what tuberculosis is, but I would tell you, like when I was listening to Shudra, because I know what he's doing and I know what tuberculosis is, I was trying to see how fast he says tuberculosis, right? Because if you say it too fast, you will not know what, you don't know what they said, right? Because it's a word that we don't hear on a daily basis, right? So we have to know what we're trying to get across and what we're saying, and then kind of be clear. And sometimes he could have said TB before he said tuberculosis, then that's jargon, right? Even though it's an acronym, it's jargon because it's not something we hear on a daily basis. So you don't say TB in your pitch until you probably said tuberculosis like 3 times, right? Because, or tuberculosis or TB, or also known as TB, right? That's a way you can use the jargon that matters to your business, because sometimes jargon does matter depending on what you do, okay? Tone, I think you said it earlier, tone, like how was my tone, right? Were you expecting that someone was going to say, oh, you're too loud or you're too soft? What did you think someone would say when you were asking, how was my tone?
Yours?
Yeah, when you were asking, you said, hey, tone or whatever, were you asking because you wanted to know what someone thought, if your tone was high or low?
Yeah, more too much inviting.
Oh,
I get too passionate. I'm like,
okay,
who is this guy? Like, chill out.
okay. So you can even say too inviting.
Yeah.
Too inviting. Can we ever be too inviting? Probably, if you're not a hugger and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? What's up? You're like, hold on, I'm not a hugger, right? We can be too inviting, right? So that's also another way to kind of do it. Yes, you want people to jump on your bandwagon, but guess what? If you make it clear and concise, I'm probably going to start jumping on your bandwagon, right? What about pausing and pacing? Not pacing when I'm moving, the pace of how you speak, right? And being able to pause. And as you guys have probably noticed, I'm not a perfection at this, but you probably see me where I'm talking, then I'm pausing, and I'm at a different pace here or there because certain things I want to put emphasis on, and then other things I just need you to kind of know as a baseline, and then we'll probably capture it a little bit later down the line, okay? So last ones, nonverbals, all right? This one is, okay, so I think Shudra mentioned, like, obviously sometimes when you're doing a pitch, definitely a 3-minute pitch, and you probably have some imagery, right? You guys are going to have a 3-minute pitch on Sunday. You don't have to get overly creative, but a little bit of creativity could go a long way, right? Some images along with what you're saying popped up at the right time could just connect the dots, right? So when you, throughout this pitch that you're going to do, just make sure it's consistent. If you're going to start off with nothing, don't start putting things later on or midway throughout the time. It just won't work. It's kind of just triggered something else. I saw nothing, then I see a little thing in the corner. It's going to be a little bit irritating. If you start off with something, you kind of have that little pip screen up in the top, and it's clear, it's there in the middle, it's not bothering nobody, it's there, and then it changes as you talk, right? That could be very, very useful for you. But in general, if you could show something and you have the ability or the opportunity to show something, try to do that. It gets the point much across better. Visual representation and experiences, we can always connect the dots much quicker with visual, okay? And then consistency in design. As you guys have probably seen these slide presentations, they're all basically somewhat the same, but just different information on there, right? If you can have a level of consistency within that design, it's going to go a long way. The moment that you have one page, one color is blue and the other color is purple and the other one's high yellow green, if it fits your brand and your brand identity, maybe. But on a standard basis, that's a no-go. Because you're changing this color psychology actually really messes around with this a lot. Why do we see logos for restaurants a certain color? Why do we say technology a certain color? Like, colors really actually impact a lot of our thinking and the way we feel and do, right? So be very clear that your colors match up with your brand as well, okay? So I have a printout for you guys to give to you. I just wanted to show you this on the screen. This is I had way more information here, and I had Ryan basically say, hey, that's a lot of information. Really, because it is, right? And this one's a little bit shorter, a little bit condensed. It just gives you one sentence, right? But I think I had 3 sentences. Now, why did I do that? Because I'm like, oh, more information is better, right? But more information is better, but in the context of on the screen, maybe not, right? So even with this amount of words, probably never put this amount of words on a slide ever, okay? This is just too much, okay? And the last thing is visual aids, okay? Visual aids. That was the one that I needed to show you. Sorry, the last one was visual aids. Being able to have something with you to share, right? And if you have a prototype, and not everybody has a prototype, but being able to have the earliest version of that is okay. Even if it doesn't do anything particularly functional, but you can kind of show perspective. Give me perspective. That's also good to go with, okay? So there's nothing more now. What I wanted to do is I have another document I'm going to give to you guys along with the examples. The examples, once again, I broke down in 2 main areas. 4 sections of information that you're going to need: problem, customer and solution, right? The market opportunity that's available, right? Your experience, your personal experience, or the reason why you are going to do what you do about this, right? That also connects. And then the last thing is your ask, your call to action. And then the last one was, the other section of it is in a story format, just to kind of give you guys a little familiarity how you can take those 4 sections, compile it into a story, and then pitch that in 3 minutes, okay? So I'm hoping that this was a little bit helpful into your next stage of what you're getting ready to do. If you have any more questions, let me know. I'll print the rest of the documents out for those who didn't get them earlier. And then the other ones that I want to share with you, I'll print those out, okay? Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, we have t-shirts too, by the way. If you don't have a t-shirt, I think you guys all got your t-shirts at the event. So, okay? Tell your friends, come and get a t-shirt, okay? Hey, you got to earn that one. You gotta, no, all right, so any questions per se? If you have no questions right now, that's fine. Set up a consultation with myself, Ryan, Shidru, Lucretia, and or Stefani. We're here to support you through this next journey. I know right now for those who are doing the competition, you got to condense it down between the next couple of days, maximize our resources, and just come in. If you're not there and confident yet today, then that means we need to work on a little bit of that confidence right now. Okay, so we have a couple more days.
You can set up like one-on-one sessions with us on campus groups, not just for the competition, but like we usually also coach people for their entirety from the start, like from the beginning of your startup all the way to like production launch.
Yeah.
Anything with technical help, finding co-founders, what is the cap table, how is equity, how do I raise money, all that.
Yeah. There's a next level, okay? So, any questions before we shut down? All right. Once again, this workshop